Okay, we will talk about a third approach in international relations, that is the Marxist approach. The Marxist approach is, comparatively speaking, compared to realism and liberalism, it's just a minor approach. It's just not that mainstream approach. Nowadays, if you want me to calculate the number of international relations scholars who call themselves Marxists, I think around 6 to 7%. If including critical schools, international relations scholars who consider themselves scholars from so-called critical school, 7 to 8% at most, less than 10% at most. This is not a mainstream approach. Comparatively, compared to realism, compared to liberalism, it's not a major approach. However, this is a very, very important minor approach because this gives you another angle. Realism and also liberalism, as I mentioned in the last lecture, they are so-called system maintenance approach in international relations. They aspire to maintain the system. However, this Marxist approach is a school which aspire to be critical, to criticize the whole existing international systems. Okay, however, do remember that I think you all study a lot of Marxist theories during the last 3 to 4 years. However, Marx himself just suggests that for some basic theory like superstructure, like base, and also advocates the proletariat to overthrow the existing capitalist system. However, a lot of theories, which we call Marxist theories, they are not constructed by Marx. However, they use the Marxist approach to analyze the world, so they are called Marxist approach. I give a very good example. Marx as a man, he is not very critical to the male domination of the world, so-called the patriarchal system, 父系社會. He is not that critical to this system. However, there are a stream of feminists who call themselves Marxist feminists. Why they call themselves Marxist feminists? Mainly because their theories derive from those theories constructed by Marx. So Marx himself is not Marx himself did not talk too much about international relations. Marx, just like what you see on the internet, there are lots of so-called correct picture, 改圖 or amend. I don't know the exact name, but correct amended pictures, 改圖算啦，叫 amend 算啦 ，amended pictures. Marx is the basis. A lot of people use Marx to construct something new based on Marx. Okay, the only slogan about international relations, Marx's slogan of international relations is here. He called for the unification of all proletariats across the globe to fight against capitalism. That is. Proletariats in Chinese is 無產階級. He does not say more than that. He just called for proletariat around the world to overthrow the whole capitalist system. Because one country turned from capitalist society to a socialist society for Marx is not enough. It needs the whole world to overthrow the whole capitalist system. That's it. However, why Marx is so important to international relations? Because, firstly, as I mentioned in the last 2.5 lectures, both realist approach and liberalist approach, they analyze international relations from the angle of state struggle, the struggle between states, or of course struggle including cooperation between states, the state level. However, Marx, he analyzed, or not Marx himself, but all theories of Marx's theories, that is all international relations theory derived from Marx, they analyze international relations in another angle, that is economic angle. Use economic angle. They consider that the state-to-state relations is just a surface. Underlying every state cooperation, every state struggle, in fact, is a representation of a capitalist cause or passion. That is, state-to-state conflict is because of the capitalist cause between these two countries conflict with each other. They push the proletariats to the front line to be soldiers, to die and to hurt. Who will win? Are those capitalists? Okay, cooperation. International cooperation is, by nature, the cooperation between different capitalist castes on the world. So, and also, for Marxists, they from Marxist international relations, they focus on how the capitalist class exploit proletariat from an ideological and cultural dimension. Then I will talk about this later when I teach you Marxism, but not this video clip. Okay, what are the main Marxist approach, main elements, main principles of Marxist approach? Firstly, very critical of capitalism. Simple. Capitalist system, what is capitalism? Is a commodification of human labor. Human labors are just one source of capital. Say those workers are working in Foxconn, Fuxi Hong. They are in fact part of a machine. They can be easily fired by their owners, or not the owners, their employers. If the employers consider them, okay, we have to cut our job because we make a deficit. Just they fire workers. They fire workers just like some capitalists. They can say dump the machines, readily dump the machines. So labor itself, not themselves, not important in the whole capitalist system. They're just a commodity. And Tuesday I talk about realism. Realism is a projection of the evil human nature in the international arena. For Marxists, they think that international relations is the projection of the capitalist exploitation. This is a projection of capitalist exploitation on the world. Okay, how it's projected? I use a very, very famous statement from Marx. The bourgeoisie class, by the rapid improvement of all instruments of production, by the immensely facilitated means of communication, draws all, even the most barbarian nations into civilizations. Capitalism, because of the expansion of capitalism, many nations in different parts of the world, in the past they are considered barbarian. Now they are drawn into the so-called civilized world. But this civilization, of course, is Western civilizations. For instance, like in the past, China, it was left out from the Western system. But because of the expansion of capitalism, so a lot of Western industrialists, they opened the factories in China. So China joined the civilization. They only have to learn the civilized way to work. In the past, Chinese people don't work very hard. They are farmers. They do not know how to use machines. And also a lot Chinese, there are a lot of uncivilized way of living, just like eat wild animals. So when China is drawn into the civilization, then China have to learn how to work civilizedly, just like they cannot eat wild animals. They have to dress modernly, dress in modern way. So, and then capitalist system is expensive. Why? Because capitalist has a motivation inside capitalist system. That is, all capitalists, they would like to search for markets endlessly, never-ending search of new market. Main reason is because for making profit. For instance, McDonald's is a very good example. In the past, McDonald's, these restaurants was just set up in America. Now there are McDonald's in different parts of the world. Even some very, very distant area, like say there's no McDonald's in North Korea, but there are McDonald's even in Cambodia, even in Vietnam, even in some very, very backward areas in China, like Lijiang, there are McDonald's. So capitalists search for markets. And then one form of expansion of market is imperialism and colonization. How? Colony, according to Marx, is an area for the colonizers to sell their products. A very good example is Hong Kong. Hong Kong in the past was a British colony. So Hong Kong was an area for British enterprises to sell their products. Here, a very good example. This is the first version of MTL cars. Those cars were produced in Britain. Why those cars were produced in Britain? It is not because UK produced MTL were the most advanced type of metro on the world. No. But only because Hong Kong was a British colony. So Britain would like to sell its MTL to Hong Kong. Then now Hong Kong turned over to China. So Hong Kong MTL Corporation do not buy UK MTL anymore, UK MTL or underground car anymore. Then nowadays Hong Kong buy MTL cars from China. We, politically correct speaking, we are not a Chinese colony. However, because we are part of China, so we buy cars, the MTL, not we, but MTL buys cars from China. Always like that. And for Marxists, the second principle is they analyze international relations from a class-based analysis. Okay, class-based analysis, you have to look at this graph. For Marxists, there are two structures in human society. One is superstructure, that is including education, religion, politics, media, law, and then economic base or substructure. That is the means of production and who owns the means of production. Means of production 即係生產工具. Okay, for Marx, the superstructure, that is today's religion, education, and politics, is to protect the owners of means of production. That is, in capitalist society, that is those big tycoons, those capitalists. So for Marx, unlike realism and liberalism or even liberalism, states are not autonomous. As I taught you realism considers that state is a rational actors. Itself is particularly neoliberalism consider state rationally execute its foreign policies, that is to maintain its survival. State execute these policies without the influence from some domestic players. However, for Marx, they think that state are not autonomous. State is driven by ruling class interests. What state execute, in fact, reflects the interests of ruling class. Say, why U.S. launched a trade war with China? Mainly because U.S. enterprises suffer a lot from its competition with Chinese enterprises. Say, WhatsApp. Yes, Lord, you can say WhatsApp, Facebook. Facebook is a better example. Like Facebook, its products, including Facebook, including Instagram, cannot enter the Chinese market. So, Facebook and Instagram, represented by U.S. government, they ask for U.S. government to represent them to protect their interests. So, U.S. government used the trade war to force China to open its market for Facebook, for Instagram to enter its market. For Marxists, international struggle is not a struggle between states, but struggle between capitalist class from different states. So, China-U.S. trade war for Marxists is not a struggle between China and U.S. However, this is a struggle between WhatsApp, Facebook, Apple, those big U.S. enterprises with Chinese big enterprises, just like Tencent, Alibaba. Emancipation. Liberalism or realism, they are, as I mentioned in the last video clip, they are so-called system maintenance theory. The purpose is to find some method to prevent the conflict in the current international system. They do not desire to change the current international system. However, Marxists, of course, liberalism and realism, they protest the vested interests and profoundly conservative. They just would like to protest maintain the existing international system. As you know that when you do not know and recall it from the last few video clips, you will notice that these two theories are very conservative and protecting the vested interests. Marx even that philosophers should not only interpret the world, but have to change it. Thus, consider good theory is a theory that can change the world. He thinks that all Marxists, not Marx, but all Marxists, they think that today's world represents a kind of exploitation by the capitalists on the proletariats. So, Marxists explain by constructing some theories. By constructing theories, they aspire to exploit the weakness of the current capitalist system, and then strike for so-called emancipation, 解放. That is to say destroy the existing political system, international system, this capitalist system, destroy it altogether. Totality of knowledge, very simple. When we learn social science, even though some of you not nowadays applied social studies nowadays, in fact, is quite close to applied sociology. But in the past, there's a subject called applied social studies. In the past, a few years ago, this is their major. in applied social studies. Applied social studies, all students have to take both, not both, all psychology, economics, politics, and sociology courses. They have to study all courses. Now some of you major in psychology, and some of you major in, of course, many of you major in politics, and some of you major in applied social studies. Marx thinks that it is not good that we divide the social world into different disciplines. We have to study the world altogether. So Marx, not only a political theory, but also itself is an economic theory, itself has a sociology theory, and itself is also a psychological theory, as I taught you in year 1. That's Marxist economic theory, Marxist sociology theory, Marxist political theory. That's different theory of Marx.